The rain hammered the roof of the quiet suburban house outside Austin like 1,000 restless fingers seeking entry. It was 11:30 p.m. on a lonely stretch of road, lined with dark live oaks, whose branches scraped against the siding like warnings from the dead. The two-story home, with its neat white trim and wide front porch, had once felt like a sanctuary. Now it was a tomb. Emma Miller stood frozen in the kitchen, staring at her trembling hands under the harsh fluorescent light. 28 years old, with long dark hair that fell in damp strands across her pale face, she looked like a ghost herself. Her wedding ring, a simple gold band John had chosen with such care, felt like a chain around her finger. 6 months of marriage, and it had come to this, murder. Her husband John lay dead in the creek behind the house, wrapped in heavy plastic sheeting and weighted with stones they had dragged from the garden. The floodwaters would carry him away by morning, or so Ryan had promised. She and her old boyfriend had done it together just hours earlier, in the pouring rain, their hands slick with mud and blood. Ryan Carter leaned against the kitchen counter, sipping whiskey from a tumbler. 30 years old, with sharp features, a jawline like cut stone, and eyes that always seemed to calculate the angles. He set the glass down with a soft clink. "It's over, Em. No one saw us leave the body. The storm will wash away the tracks. By tomorrow, he's just a missing person who had an accident. We play it cool. Wait a few days, then start over somewhere else. California, maybe. Or up north." Emma nodded mechanically, but her stomach twisted into knots. John had been everything she thought she wanted once. 32, kind-hearted, with warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and a laugh that filled rooms. He worked as a software engineer downtown, came home every evening with flowers or her favorite takeout from that little Thai place on South Congress. He listened when she spoke about her anxieties, held her through panic attacks, planned quiet weekends hiking in the hill country, loyal to a fault. But loyalty had bored her. Ryan had always been the fire, the jealous, passionate ex who texted her late at night even after her wedding, reminding her of stolen weekends in cheap motels and the thrill of secrets. She had never fully let go. The emotional distance grew after the honeymoon. John noticed, of course. He tried harder. Date nights, love notes on the fridge, gentle questions about what was wrong. His kindness only made her resentment sharper. One rainy afternoon 2 weeks ago, after another fight where John had simply apologized and cooked her dinner, Emma had called Ryan. The plan formed like poison in their whispers. Make it look like an accident. Lure him to the basement stairs under the pretense of showing him a surprise renovation idea. A push, a fall, broken neck. Drag the body out the back, through the trees to the swollen creek. Simple. It had been horrifyingly easy. John came home smiling, carrying a bouquet of white lilies because he remembered they were her favorite. "Bad day at work, babe? Let me make it better." She had kissed him, led him downstairs. Ryan waited in the shadows. The crack of John's skull on the concrete still echoed in her nightmares, his eyes wide with betrayal in those final seconds, staring up at her as life faded. "Emma, I love you." They had cleaned the blood meticulously. Now the house smelled of bleach and rain. The lights in the kitchen flickered once, then died completely. Emma gasped, her heart slamming against her ribs. "Just the storm," Ryan muttered, pulling out his phone and switching on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, casting long shadows across the cabinets. But the house felt alive now. A cold draft swept through the room, though all windows were shut tight. Then came the footsteps, slow, wet, dragging slightly. They echoed from the hallway that led to the basement door. The same door they had carried John through earlier that evening. "Ryan," Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "Stay here." He grabbed a large knife from the block, the blade glinting in the phone light. He moved toward the hallway, his footsteps cautious on the hardwood. The dragging sounds continued, moving now into the living room. Emma followed despite herself, her bare feet cold on the floor. Her breath began to fog in the air as the temperature plummeted. The old grandfather clock in the corner of the living room, a family heirloom from John's grandmother that hadn't worked in years, suddenly began to tick. Loud, deliberate, each second like a heartbeat. Its hand spun wildly backward, then forward, stopping dead at midnight with a resonant chime that vibrated through the walls. Emma clutched the back of the couch. This isn't happening. We're imagining it. Ryan swept the flashlight beam across the room. It landed on the tall standing mirror near the staircase. His reflection stared back, pale and tense. Then something shifted behind it, a silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered. Wearing the same gray sweater John had died in, John. Ryan cursed and smashed the mirror with the butt of the knife. Glass exploded outward in a shower of shards. Every door in the house slammed shut simultaneously. The front door, the back, the bedroom doors upstairs. Deadbolts slid home with metallic finality. No human hand had touched them. A voice drifted down from the second floor, soft as rain on leaves but unmistakable. John's voice, loving, broken. Emma, why did you do this? Tears stung Emma's eyes. She moved toward the stairs, drawn by a force she couldn't name. Ryan grabbed her arm. Don't be stupid, he's dead, we killed him. But she pulled free, ascending the stairs into deeper darkness. The air grew icy, her skin prickling. At the top, in the doorway to their master bedroom, John appeared. Not solid flesh, but a translucent figure glowing faintly in the gloom. He wore the blood-stained gray sweater, jeans torn at the knee from the fall. His face was the same gentle one she remembered, brown hair tousled, eyes filled with sorrow rather than fury. A faint bruise marred his temple where the concrete had struck. "John," she breathed, collapsing to her knees on the landing. He stepped closer, though his feet made no sound. "I knew about Ryan for months. The late texts, the way you pulled away when I touched you. I found the messages on your phone one night while you slept. I stayed because I loved you, Emma. I believed our vows meant something, that you would choose me, us, eventually." Memories began to play around them like faint holograms projected on the walls. Their first date at a food truck festival downtown. John nervously spilling salsa on his shirt and laughing it off. Their wedding in a small chapel outside Austin, under string lights and Texas stars. John's voice steady as he promised, forever, no matter what. Lazy Sundays in bed. His fingers tracing patterns on her back as they planned a future. Maybe kids someday, a trip to the coast. The way he had looked at her on their honeymoon in Galveston, eyes full of quiet awe. Emma sobbed, covering her face. I was confused, trapped in my own head. Ryan made me feel alive, dangerous. I thought marriage was suffocating me. I was wrong, so wrong. John, please, I'm sorry. Downstairs, Ryan pounded on the bedroom door that had slammed shut behind Emma. "Emma, open up!" His voice cracked with fear. The house responded with creaks and groans. Cabinets in the kitchen flew open and slammed. Shadows stretched unnaturally long across the living room walls, forming shapes that mimicked John's outline, reaching, watching. John's ghost knelt beside her, close enough that she could feel the unnatural cold radiating from him, yet beneath it lingered the echo of his warmth. I came back because my love wouldn't let me go. Not just anger, not just revenge. The unfinished pieces of us, the promises I made. Even as I died, my last thought wasn't hate. It was worry for you, hoping Ryan wouldn't hurt you too. He reached out a translucent hand toward her cheek. It passed through, but for a split second, she felt the brush of his fingers, gentle as always. Ryan finally forced the door open downstairs with a chair leg, rushing up. He burst into the bedroom, knife raised. "Show yourself, you bastard!" John's form solidified slightly in front of him. The temperature dropped further. Ryan swung wildly. The blade passed through John harmlessly, embedding in the wall. Cold hands, ethereal but impossibly strong, closed around Ryan's throat, not crushing to kill, but holding him immobile. Visions flooded Ryan's mind. John's trusting smile as Emma led him to the basement, the betrayal in his eyes. The slow drag of his body through mud and rain. Ryan's own selfish glee at the thought of having Emma fully. Ryan screamed, collapsing to the floor in a heap, gasping and clawing at his neck. Tears streamed down his face. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please." Emma watched in horror as the house turned against them. Footsteps echoed everywhere now, up and down the halls, in the attic, circling the bedroom. The bathroom mirror fogged over, and in the condensation, words appeared slowly. "You took my life, but not my love." Hours dragged on. By 1:45 a.m., the storm raged harder outside, lightning illuminating the room in stark flashes. Emma sat on the edge of their king bed, the same bed where John had held her countless nights. John's ghost sat beside her, flickering. He spoke softly, revealing layers of truth. "Remember our trip to Big Bend? How we hiked to the top and watched the sunset? You said you felt safe with me. I lived for those moments." More memories unfolded. John surprising her with a puppy for her birthday, only for her to complain about the mess. He had quietly rehomed it without anger. The way he defended her to his family when they questioned her distance. His quiet tears one night when he thought she was asleep, whispering, "I just want her to be happy." Guilt clawed at Emma's chest like a living thing. She had thrown away a man who loved her selflessly for a manipulative shadow. "Why aren't you angry? Why don't you hurt me?" John's eyes softened. "I was angry at first. When I woke in the dark of the creek, feeling the water rush over me. But love is stronger. I returned to show you the truth, to make you face what you destroyed, and maybe to find peace myself." Downstairs, Ryan recovered enough to try escaping. He smashed a window in the living room, but the glass refused to break further, as if reinforced by invisible force. Shadows swarmed him. John's form multiplied, whispering accusations. "You manipulated her. You wanted me gone so you could own her. But she was never yours." Ryan curled into a ball on the floor, rocking, broken by psychological torment. The clock ticked louder, marking every regret. By 3:20 a.m., Emma and John were alone again in the bedroom. Ryan lay unconscious downstairs. The rain had eased to a steady patter. John revealed deeper secrets. He had written letters to her, never sent, detailing his fears and hopes. One appeared on the nightstand, materializing from nothing. Emma read it through tears. Pages of his handwriting, pouring out love despite knowing her betrayal. "I watched you from the other side," he confessed. "Saw you hesitate before pushing me. Saw the regret already in your eyes. That's why I couldn't rest." Emma broke completely. "I do love you, John. I see it now. Too late. You were my home. Ryan was an illusion. I destroyed us for nothing." The atmosphere shifted. The horror elements intensified in waves. Doors rattling, whispers in the walls reciting their wedding vows backward, cold spots moving like entities. But through it all, John's presence remained anchored in sorrowful affection. As 4:50 a.m. approached, the grandfather clock began its slow chimes toward dawn. John's form grew fainter. It's time. I needed you to understand, to regret, to carry this and choose better. I forgive you, Emma. Live with the truth. My love was real. She reached for him desperately. His fading arms wrapped around her in a final embrace, solid for one heartbeat, warm, familiar. The scent of his cologne lingered. Memories of every tender moment flooded her. Lazy kisses, shared laughter, quiet strength. Then he dissolved into motes of soft light that danced around her like fireflies before vanishing into the coming dawn. The locks clicked open throughout the house. Lights flickered back to life. The unnatural cold lifted, replaced by the damp normalcy of morning. At 6 a.m., Emma stood on the front porch. The rain finally stopped. Birds began to chirp in the live oaks. Ryan remained inside, alive but vacant-eyed, staring at nothing, muttering about shadows and forgiveness. She would call the police soon. Confess everything. Face Emma read it through tears, pages of his handwriting, pouring out love despite knowing her betrayal. I watched you from the other side, he confessed. Saw you hesitate before pushing me. Saw the regret already in your eyes. That's why I couldn't rest. Emma broke completely. I do love you, John. I see it now. Too late. You were my home. Ryan was an illusion. I destroyed us for nothing. The atmosphere shifted. The horror elements intensified in waves. Doors rattling, whispers in the walls reciting their wedding vows backward, cold spots moving like entities. But through it all, John's presence remained anchored in sorrowful affection. As 4:50 a.m. approached, the grandfather clock began its slow chimes toward dawn. John's form grew fainter. It's time. I needed you to understand, to regret, to carry this and choose better. I forgive you, Emma. Live with the truth. My love was real. She reached for him desperately. His fading arms wrapped around her in a final embrace, solid for one heartbeat, warm, familiar. The scent of his cologne lingered. Memories of every tender moment flooded her. Lazy kisses, shared laughter, quiet strength. Then he dissolved into motes of soft light that danced around her like fireflies before vanishing into the coming dawn. The locks clicked open throughout the house. Lights flickered back to life. The unnatural cold lifted, replaced by the damp normalcy of morning. At 6 a.m., Emma stood on the front porch. The rain finally stopped. Birds began to chirp in the live oaks. Ryan remained inside, alive but vacant-eyed, staring at nothing, muttering about shadows and forgiveness. She would call the police soon, confess everything, face the consequences, prison, perhaps, or worse. But for the first time, clarity filled her. She looked toward the trees where John's body lay hidden. A single beam of morning sunlight pierced the clouds, illuminating the spot like a benediction. I love you, John, she whispered into the quiet. Forever. I'm sorry. The wind rustled the leaves gently, sounding for one final moment like a soft reply, the echo of a love that transcended death. The consequences, prison perhaps, or worse. But for the first time, clarity filled her. She looked toward the trees where John's body lay hidden. A single beam of morning sunlight pierced the clouds, illuminating the spot like a benediction. I love you, John, she whispered into the quiet. Forever. I'm sorry. The wind rustled the leaves gently, sounding for one final moment like a soft reply, the echo of a love that transcended death.